Too many people associate retirement with the end.
I figure it'll be a little bit of a transition to try to slow down a little bit.
The number one question I have about retirement is having enough money to last.
In my mind, you start to look at it, that's an opportunity to do more of the things you want when you want to do it.
Make it financially able to do things that I enjoy.
Party.
Just financial security and enjoy my family.
More people need to go into it with their eyes wide open, understanding what is my plan, what do I want to do, and then how am I going to get there?
Will the rules change?
I have no real specific plan.
I'm planning for what the status is right now. I just hope it doesn't change drastically.
Welcome to the RetireTastic Show with JoAnn Regan, powered by the Retirement Income Store and brought to you by Financial Security Group of Arizona. In retirement, it's all about income. And today, you'll hear ideas, concepts, and strategies designed specifically to generate reliable retirement income. Now, here's the host of the RetireTastic Show, JoAnn Regan.
Hello there. You know, there are many things out there today that when it comes to the term reverse, it's actually a good thing. We have reverse gear in our car, and when we're backing up in a parking lot or backing out of our driveway, reverse is a good thing. But you don't ever see when you're going down the road in town or coming up on a red light where somebody's actually driving in reverse. It would look kind of silly, a little crazy, right? Well, did you know, even as crazy as it sounds, the title of today's show is Reverse Going Forward. And very similar to that car, which you never see going down the road, I have seen people backing up, maybe drive for a half a mile or something. And I have probably done it myself. But what you don't want to do is have a retirement plan that is going in reverse instead of going forward. And what do I mean by that? And what exactly am I talking about? Welcome to the RetireTastic Show. This is JoAnn Regan, your host, where my goal is to help you have a fantastic retirement. Did you know that the most cancerous strategy for the majority of retirees today is they don't know what they're doing? They don't know that they're doing going in reverse. They don't understand the impact of it. And that is spending principal early on in their retirement years. The thing is, whether you believe it or not, you are doing it. You're actually doing it. And about 90% of you are doing it if you have mutual funds. And I'm not being critical of mutual funds. They're a good thing. They did help you to accumulate wealth, and accumulating wealth is a positive thing. But when you go into retirement, you now need to distribute that wealth. And typically, if you need more than 1%, you are actually going to be spending your principal. You're going in reverse. And whenever you start depreciating an investment and you're taking income from that investment, you're cannibalizing your principal. You want to add an income component to that to prevent that from happening. By having a select, custom-made, diversified income-producing strategy that you select that pays income in good times and bad, that's how you're going to quit going in reverse. To help you understand a little bit better, here's what the famous TV host Susie Orman had to say recently about reverse dollar cost averaging.
It's when you are invested in the stock market today and you are taking out 4% a year to live on, you're going to find yourself in big time trouble if you're taking out money. We're not diversified in the correct way.
That's some pretty powerful stuff from a very powerful woman who knows her stuff. Wouldn't you agree? You see, we all have some risk that we are willing to take. And I'm not talking about those risk or reward questionnaires that you fill out when you approach a financial advisory firm that tells you have a risk score of 43 or 58 or 72 or whatever. I had no idea retirement planning was score driven, like you're trying to win a game or something. That's new to me. So that's definitely not what I'm talking about. I'd like to understand where the client is coming from because I already know where the portfolio needs to be in one sense. But unfortunately, I'm not the one that designs it. My job is to listen to what folks are telling me so I can better understand. Are they going to be okay with some losses? It doesn't really matter where your money's at when it comes to losses. You don't want to have losses and then take income from your portfolio and spend your principal. Spending principal and losses is a negative. It's a huge negative. And if you're going to have income just like you are with a piece of real estate, then it makes little more sense to collect income from the renter and just leave the appreciation of the real estate to itself. That's what stock paying dividends do. Real quick, here's what Peter Marissi recently had to say on the Income Generation TV show about seniors needing to shift to dividend stocks.
they're very vulnerable because they haven't prepared themselves correctly. The best they can do is to shift to dividend stocks so they can catch the rebound if they get it. Let's face it, Procter & Gamble ain't going out of business. So go to dividend-based stocks and ride it out with an eye towards the fact that, say, the petroleum industry's long-term prospects are not great. So you certainly want to go to dividend-based stocks that have good long-term prospects for when the economy recovers. So, that's where I come on that. Hopefully, if you're an older person like myself, you're like myself, and I have half of my money in fixed income, cash equivalent, get out money, so I can ride out 10 years.
So there you have it. Dividend stocks can generate real income month after month, deposited into your bank account. Now that's what I'm talking about. But what about mutual funds? You're telling me that your financial advisor, has you in several mutual funds. Isn't that income? And I know people will buy mutual funds because they are trying to diversify. But in reality, you actually have very few holdings, like fractional shares of a lot of companies. And that means you don't have true ownership, just a small fraction. So here's what's so bad about that. It's what I call overlapping. Sometimes clients come in and they may have 15 or 20 mutual funds, or a combination of mutual funds and maybe ETFs, and maybe a few real stocks or a few real bonds. Very rare that I see those in individual securities, but I do see a lot of mutual funds. So here's what's so sad. They may own Walmart 5 or 6 times in those 8 or 10 funds. If you get microscopic about it, you will find out that the actual amount of exposure that you have. So let's say they have Walmart or Coca-Cola or whatever the stock is. And when you look at their top 10 holdings, let's say that Walmart is 2% in a lot of these holdings, then the client may own 40 or 50,000 out of a $700,000 or $800,000 portfolio, or even $1 million portfolio. That's not diversification. Diversification means you only want to own Walmart once, not overlapping many times. So today's show is called Reverse Going Forward, and it's not a great plan for your money. I have found one of the things that actually stands in people's way of not understanding stock market history is because if you don't manage volatility, then you're going to be spending principal and essentially cannibalizing your principal. I want to get a commissioned report to you. It's called Hard Lessons of Stock Market History. It is a simple and helpful piece that will help you understand exactly what I'm talking about today. For your free copy, just reach out to 1-800-FSG-7890. Again, 1-800-FSG-7890, and we can mail it or email it to you, whichever you prefer. You're listening to the RetireTastic Show, and I am JoAnn Regan, your host. And today we're talking about reverse going forward. So think about what I just said. What exactly am I talking about? It's the most cancerous strategy for the majority of the retirees, and they don't even know they're doing it. And what is that? That is using their money and not making enough. Using their principal and not making enough. A lot of people just really don't understand the impact of spending their principal. The impact is you have to grow that money back each and every year in the form of interest and dividends when you took that withdrawal. And if you can't make it back, then you're going to end up spending the principal. And that's a cancerous strategy. And the majority of you are, unfortunately, doing it. Let's be honest, nobody wants to run out of money, but many of you may because you've not shown how reverse dollar cost averaging works. Remember what Susie Orman said about reverse dollar cost averaging?
It's when you are invested in the stock market today and you are taking out 4% a year to live on, you're going to find yourself in big time trouble if you're taking out money. We're not diversified in the correct way.
It is so important to understand, and that's why I played it for you again. So now you're maybe thinking before today, you've never even heard of it. You've never heard of reverse dollar cost averaging. But I really want you to know that that's okay because most advisors don't really want you to know about it or understand its devastation. They want you to understand dollar cost averaging. And if you're in your 30s or 40s or even 50 and you're contributing to a 401k, dollar cost averaging is probably right for you. But unfortunately, what works well one way may not work well going in a different direction. You see, When you are in retirement and no longer earning a paycheck or contributing to your retirement accounts, now you're distributing. You need to be focusing on how your income is coming out of your portfolio. Let's say you take out $100 at $10 a share. You sold 10 shares, right? But what happens when the share price drops in half? To get that same $100, you're going to have to sell 20 shares at $5 price. That, my friends, is called reverse dollar cost averaging. What works well one way doesn't work well going the other way, especially when it comes to distributing your income. Reverse dollar cost averaging, in my opinion, is the most cancerous strategy you can have. The majority of you listening, unfortunately, are doing this, especially if you're in retirement and using various funds to do so. If you would like to have a free copy of my commissioned reports called it Hard Lessons of Stock Market History, reach out to me at 1-800-FSG-7890. Again, that's 1-800-FSG-7890. You're listening to the RetireTastic Show, and I'm your host, JoAnn Regan, and we'll be right back.
The RetireTastic Show with JoAnn Regan airs Saturday afternoons at 1 and Sunday mornings at 8:30. You're listening to the RetireTastic Show with JoAnn Regan, powered by the Retirement Income Store.
Investing in the stock market these days is like riding a roller coaster. 1 minute you're moving up slow and steady just the way you like it, and then all of a sudden, your investment portfolio is in a free fall, up 800 points, down 800 points. It can be very scary. A lot of people no longer gamble with their retirement in the stock market. If you are tired of the ride and want to look at safer options or would like to learn a better way to grow your money during these times,
call 800-FSG-7890. That's 800-FSG-7890. Or visit us online at yourfsg.com.
Whether this is the new normal or the new right now, our economy has changed. So what does this mean for your retirement? To keep you up to date and informed, we've put together a series of webinar events. Because even though many things around us keep changing, your need for retirement income will remain constant. For the date and time of our next webinar event,
call 800-FSG-7890. That's 800-FSG-7890. Or visit us online at yourfsg.com. Time now for more of the RetireTastic Show with JoAnn Regan, powered by the Retirement Income Store and brought to you by Financial Security Group of Arizona.
You want to invest for income throughout your retirement. You're not trying to grow your wealth. Now you're trying to get income. It is possible to have income and growth simultaneously by having a custom-made, diversified income-producing strategy that pays income in good times and bad. It depends on the person and how much risk they're willing to take. If the markets have a V-shaped recovery and it takes 6 or 7 years to come out of that, then you're stuck at that trough. And if you're only getting 1% in dividends and you need 4% in income, unfortunately, you're going to reverse dollar cost average your portfolio. You're going to cannibalize it. So welcome to the RetireTastic Show. And this is JoAnn Regan, your host, and today we're talking about reverse going forward. So what am I talking about? What exactly is this? It's actually the most cancerous strategy for retirees today, and they don't even know that they're doing it. They don't understand the impact of it. Surveys say nobody wants to run out of money before they run out of life, and another concern of retirees is being able to manage higher health care costs through the future. Did you know that most people don't even know how income works in their portfolio? And that's because they haven't been shown. If you can kind of reverse how you're doing your strategies and don't invest for principal and income as a withdrawal, which is what most people do, they're engineering their income. Why not just take it from income only? Then you can minimize the volatility out there. We are always going to have volatility. And it may make more sense to be able to generate interest and dividends and cover your expenses that way if you're going to be taking out 4 or 5% a year versus you're spending the principal right out of the gate and therefore reverse dollar cost averaging over time. So let me give you a prime example. I had a lady back in 2013 come into my office. Now, 2013, if you were to go to any of the finance websites and pull up a graph on the S&P 500 between 2007 and 2013, there was a V-shaped recovery. And it took about 6 years from that financial crisis to come out of it. It was the top to bottom loss from 2007 to 2009 with almost a 60% loss before the markets turned around. And so it took 4 years to recover from that 60% loss. But you see, if you're in a V-shaped recovery, and if you go through that while you're in retirement, you talk about reverse dollar cost averaging. Well, this lady found out the hard way. So what happened? So in 2013, this lady came in and she was really upset. And she's saying, I'm afraid I'm going to live into my mid-90s. And here's what happened. In 2007, early in her retirement, her and her husband were planning a trip. And guess what? They had over $1 million. She didn't know they had over $1 million, but she did. So follow me here. She lost her husband in an accident, which isn't good, because here she is in 2013 with only a portion of the money left, and it wound up being right around $460,000. She had over $1 million when she started in 2007, which was a great thing, but she went through the V-shaped recovery. Now, she was only taking out about $50,000 a year. That's $50,000 a year for 6 years. That was the time frame. And so that was about $300,000. And most people, when they do the math, they think, okay, well, then she should have more money than $460,000. That she should be closer to $800,000. Well, it didn't work. What happened to the other portion of her money? That's called reverse dollar cost averaging because she was cannibalizing her principal. All during the recovery years, which was about 6 years, she was spending more shares than she would have been if the market was flat or going up. We all know that the markets are either going to be flat, go sideways, up, or down. When it goes down, you can actually reverse dollar cost average your portfolio just like she did. So we fixed her problem in 2013, but the advisor who recommended her to take out $50,000 a year basically was using the same old common advice. Hey, why not use the 4% cash flow? And that's what she did. To be honest with you, I'd rather get my income from interest and dividends, and therefore in the long run, my portfolio is going to be doing a lot better than the one that is actually spending the principal. And there's no way you can keep up with inflation when you're spending principal. Just like the lady I was talking about earlier, she cannibalized her principal of about $250,000. And where was her inflation hedge? So unfortunately for her, it didn't really work out very well. So I want to get a great commissioned report in your hand. It's called 11 Signs You're Using the Wrong Advisor. And it can help you understand what I'm discussing today. So in order to get this report into your hands, why don't you reach out to me at 1-800-FSG-7890 and ask for 11 signs you're using the wrong advisor. It's a very simple and helpful piece, and I'll mail it to you or email it to you, whichever you prefer. Again, that's at 1-800-FSG-7890. This is the RetireTastic Show, and I'm JoAnn Regan, your host, where my goal is to help you have a fantastic retirement. So we're still talking about reverse going forward, and what in the world am I talking about? It's the most cancerous strategy, and it is worth repeating. For the majority of retirees, they don't even know that they're doing it, and they don't understand the impact of spending down their principal. It's one thing if you're 75 or 80 years old and you only have 10 or 11 years left. But if you spend principal early on, you won't have an inflation hedge because every time the market goes down, it strips you of maybe 30 or 40% of your money. And a lot of times you don't make that money back. And at the same time, you can't quit spending. Your bills are coming in whether you like it or not. And your bills increase over time. Therefore, it's putting a bigger impact on those withdrawals. Surveys say people don't want to run out of money, but unfortunately, they may do it anyway because nobody has been shown how to look at reverse dollar cost averaging and how it impacts their portfolio over time. Matter of fact, I just recently spoke with a prospective client that called in from our radio show, and they want to retire in a few years. I'm going to give you a great example of the 4% cash flow rule. This person was told to use it. If the markets cooperate, you don't need me. You don't need an advisor. You don't need anybody. Technically, if the markets cooperate. What I mean by that is that if the markets are steadily going up each year for your full 30-year retirement, then you don't have anything to worry about. And if I'm going to give advice when people come through the door, I have to plan for the worst case scenario just as much for the best case scenario. So to be honest with you, as long as things are positive, everybody looks good. It's when times get tough that's going to separate the men from the boys or the women from the girls, as the old saying goes. So the prospective client, he brought in his statement, and I said, let's just see if we can do the 4% cash flow rule. We did a quick top-down analysis of his portfolio, and he was living on about $50,000 a year after we reduced a couple of expenses that were going to go away when he retired. He really wasn't banking that much money. And they were living on his income, even though his wife had a separate income, and she would do whatever she wanted to with her money. I asked him, I said, well, are you going to travel or do anything like that? Because $50,000 a year is what you're living on now. But when you quit working and you're not occupied with your job anymore, how are you going to spend your time? Are you going to look out the window, or are you going to be doing some fun things, including maybe going traveling or things like that? So we came up with what he needs in addition to a Social Security that he's getting right now. And while we know he needed that $50,000, I told him, I said, well, let's look at creating a $60,000 or $70,000 a year plan. Let's create a buffer, because I knew we could get it in interest and dividends. We do it all the time for our clients. And it's not just me who believes in dividends and interest. Here's what Steve Forbes has to say.
Well, in this time of zero interest rates, where you need a microscope sometimes to find it, and where you have to go way, way, way on the risky side on bonds to get a real yield, dividends seem made to order. And the nice thing is you can pick stocks that have dividends that increase each year or have a history of increasing. And we all know when times are tough, dividends may be cut, but the cuts are not nearly as bad as the cut in equity value, and dividend stocks keep coming back. They're ideal for retirement accounts. So the nice thing about dividends, you get cash. Not the promise of a gain. You have real cash in hand. That's nice.
That's the nice thing about dividends, is a real gain, cash in hand. That's nice, and I could not agree more. Well, listen, we're just about out of time for this week, so I'll tell you one more thing about an excellent book. It's called Turning Financial Planning Right Side Up, and it's written by a good friend of mine named Jeff Small. And I want to get this book into your hands. It talks a lot about what we're discussing on today's show, and I have 5 copies, so just reach out at 1-800-FSG-7890, and I will mail that book out to you. Again, first 5 callers, I will let you know how to get this free, no-obligation book. The number is 1-800-FSG-7890. So that's all the time I have for today. I look forward to speaking to you off the air so I can help you get out of the reverse going forward mode that you're most likely in. Times have changed. It's no longer the 80s and 90s. It's time to get out of that mindset. Remember, retirement is all about income, and you only have one shot to get it right, and I'm here to help you. Thanks for listening.
That's all the time we have for today. To speak with JoAnn off the air, call 800-FSG-7890. And for more information about our program, visit yourfsg.com. The RetireTastic Show with JoAnn Regan airs Saturday afternoons at 1 and Sunday mornings at 8:30. To speak with JoAnn off the air, call 800-FSG-7890. That's 800-FSG-7890. Or visit us online at yourfsg.com.
Investment advisory services offered by FSG Financial Services, Inc., a registered investment advisory firm in the states of Arizona, Nevada, and California. Sound Income Strategies, LLC, an SEC registered investment advisory firm, is a sub-advisor of FSG Financial Services, Inc. FSG Financial Services, Inc. and Sound Income Strategies, LLC are not associated entities. FSG is a franchisee of the Retirement Income Store. The Retirement Income Store and Sound Income Strategies, LLC are associated entities.